Got what we've got. Okay, we've got what we've got, Simon.
and it's 7 o'clock, so here we are. We are live.
Oh, we're live.
We are live. Yeah. Oh, I better just get those power cable, you know.
Yeah, we don't want to lose. We wouldn't want to lose power at this particular point in time.
Hello, everybody. Yes, it's
hello. Here we go. Just powering up, everybody.
You'd think we've done this enough times to not forget that. Right, in position.
Are we there?
We are, I think, pretty much ready. It's Thursday.
It is. It's 7 o'clock. We've got a piece of rock in front of Finn this evening. He's fascinated by it. Hello, everybody. Good evening, Luke. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all.
Right, sorry, we're not disorganised, but
we've got Chardonnay green on this evening. I thought it was more appropriate than the bleu.
Yeah,
bleu I kind of associate with South Africa. We're not doing South Africa.
South Africa, I kind of associate with Sauvignon Blanc.
We're doing Chardonnay.
The wonderful world of Chardonnay.
How many times can I make this statement that Chardonnay produces the best wine in the world?
Well, I think you're preaching to the converted here, I think. So,
hi everyone.
Welcome. Yeah, so it is Thursday.
It is 7 o'clock.
7:02 actually.
It's 11th of March. Just a couple more weeks, everybody, before we're allowed out. Woohoo!
And then you still can't do anything.
No,
so we'll see you back. We'll see you back the following week.
And this evening is all about, what is it? Chocks away. It's Chardonnay.
Chardonnay, yeah.
Looking forward to this one.
The grape that some people love to hate. But really, if you just snuck it in there, they wouldn't know and they'd love it.
Hello, Clarky. Do you know what, though? I kind of feel that often we kind of skate around the subject of Chardonnay, because so often in my ear I hear people going, "Oh, I don't like Chardonnay," and it does my head in. I'll tell you, it does my head in.
But you do also get more and more people going, "Oh, I love Chardonnay."
Well, exactly, and that's fact. If they don't know they're drinking it, most of the time they're converted. They're instantly converted anyway.
But the problem is there is the good, the bad, and the ugly, like everywhere. So let's just keep saying our hellos before we get too far into it. So, hi, Felicity and Jane. Welcome.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining.
East Grinstead, isn't it?
Here,
somewhere down there.
Horsham, I think.
Horsham.
So here's the thing, right? We've got the Chablis.
We have two wines this evening, everybody.
Domaine de Melange Chablis. And also the Philip Shaw Architect Chardonnay.
Yes.
And we want you to, if you have the wines, to taste them both and compare and contrast. We'll come to talking about them individually, but don't feel the need to be instructed, like we know you guys don't, to open a bottle and pour a glass. We only have the Chablis because very sadly and very fortunately, down to the very last bottle, we're out.
We've sold out.
So,
in fact, we have 8 more bottals.
That's true, actually.
And therefore, 8 more bottles, and that is it.
Yeah,
so
when it's gone, it's gone.
We cannot open one. We cannot open one for fear of actually depriving somebody out of another bottle.
Exactly. So we're just.
But that's all right, because we've drunk so many of them. We know it sort of like in our, in our sleep. I can talk about Philip Shaw Architect Chardonnay till the cows come
probably
home.
Do in your sleep.
But I think, as Jude says, the most important thing is we've got 2 wines here. We're going to talk about Chardonnay. We are going to sort of compare and contrast, because we've got one wine from France, from the home of Chardonnay, which is Chablis, way over to Orange in New South Wales and Australia. And of course, they're going to be different. But that is not to say that one is kind of better than the other. Mm-hmm. There's just massive differences. Some of it is to do with the way in which it's produced. Some of it is to do with other things, which we're going to talk about.
We will come on to, yeah. So a few more hellos. Hi, Kerry. Thank you for joining. And also other Kerry and Martin.
Hello, Kerry and Martin.
Nice to have you here. Hello, Alice.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, Luke pointed out one of his favourite anecdotes. Do you know what? This has happened way more than once. Is the people, usually when we go to our lovely outside events and we're flogging wine to the masses and people are tasting and buying glasses and what have you. And we often get oh no, I don't like Chardonnay. And so,
have you got any Chablis?
Well, yeah, it's okay. Well, give us an idea of something that you do like. So I like Chablis. Is that okay? So anything basically without oak, probably.
It is a bizarre thing. It is a bizarre thing. But then, one of the reasons is that Chablis is by and large without oak.
Yes, so it's a totally different thing. And also...
And if it is oaked, if it is fermented in oak, then it's done in a really, really elegant style.
Yes.
But Chablis is not really about the oak; it's about something else.
Yeah, and it's also the Riesling effect, in that the people's memory of big
Riesling.
oaky, big sort of old sweet German Riesling or Rieslings. They've also got the big boozy oaky Chardonnays in their mind, and it's just not what it is anymore, is it?
No.
And here are two wonderful examples of why not. So first of all, we've got gone.
I've got a bit of news.
Oh right,
I've got a bit of news, everybody. And listen up. And in actual fact, this is kind of pertinent because apparently we are this far away, if not even this far away.
And you're not going to know what she's going to say next.
from sorting out the cork issue, as in the taints that cork can produce. They have pretty much eradicated it. The Portuguese are absolutely convinced that they have got to the what's it, the nib of it, and they suspect that they can find, actually they have a solution. They found a solution to actually eradicate all taint in caused by cork taint, I should say, because there are other types of taint. And that is going to come on board very quickly. And this is really good news. This is really good news because it means that actually a lot of winemakers will actually defer straight back to cork usage rather than the screw cap. And I was looking at, actually, in fact, our range this week. By the way, everybody who doesn't know, we've got about 120 wines in our range at any one time. And it's amazing how many screw caps we've got now.
Yeah,
they really have. You know, they really have.
Look at the Chablis.
But there is a big suggestion, and I'm gonna fly the flag for this to actually get these guys to go back to cork because the naturalists of it.
Yeah.
And
if
the taint issues have gone, then why not?
Also,
that's my big news.
It also eradicates the thought of having to suggest that a wine's corked in a restaurant.
Yeah.
So everyone can breathe a huge sigh of relief. So when they say, do you want to taste the wine? You can just say, no, it won't be corked because that doesn't exist anymore. Fill her up and let's not have that awkward moment where you think, well, actually, I don't like this.
But then the sommeliers out of the job.
Well, maybe that's good news too. Sorry, any sommeliers out there. I was having a little giggle because, as you were saying, we're this close to Alice's message of Armageddon popped up, which you're probably quite right, actually.
We are. We're a snail's pace away from Armageddon.
Or this close to avoiding Armageddon, maybe. Evening to Claire and Woodsy as well, and Switey. Thank you for joining.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you, everybody.
Bring back the pop of the cork without the worry of the taint.
So what are we going to start with?
Well, I've just got a few interesting bits of information about Chardonnay.
Here we go, everybody.
And you'll be glad to know that there will be some music questions.
Oh!
But I'll save them till later. The barrel scraping.
Music.
So here you go. So it's a Chardonnay, right? International Chardonnay Day. Do you know when that is?
No.
So we can all celebrate as the fourth Thursday in May.
Is it?
Is International Chardonnay Day. So what we'll do is we might have another one of these when the Philip Shaw's back in stock and we can actually drink it.
Okay.
So that this year will be the 27th of May. Date for the diary, and it's a Thursday.
Might I not be celebrating International Pinot Noir Day or something?
You would think it would be an error to get them both on the same, or maybe that's just International Champagne Day. Who knows?
Okay.
So there you go.
Thursday,
there's an interesting fact.
Yep.
Here's another one. At the moment, currently, 1 in 93,559 girls in this country are named Chardonnay.
How many?
1 in 900.
Okay,
right, very
up.
few.
Hands up. Who has a middle name?
Very few. It's not Chardonnay. Very few. And so this peaked. So this all came about with the program Footballers' Wives.
Yeah.
Instantly, never seen it, never watched it, not going to.
No intention.
Finn potentially, if he was around then, would have watched it just because he'd snore in front of it. But there was a character called Chardonnay Lane.
Chardonnay.
And after that program came out, there was a bit of a surge in people calling their daughters Chardonnay. In fact, one year, I think there was about 93 registrations of the name Chardonnay.
Oh my goodness!
And it actually got in 1991. It peaked to 1 in 3,000 girls born were called Chardonnay.
Oh my god!
Which hopefully is really not very many. I suppose if you imagine there was 100 Anyway, there you go. There's some fascinating facts. Also, it's got a couple of parents, like all these grape varieties. Like you remember the Pinotage, the South African grapes, parent grapes are Pinot Noir and Hermitage. So Chardonnay is actually also a daughter. Let's say I kind of picture it as a female grape, a daughter of Pinot Noir.
Yeah. Shall we ask them?
Oh, they're never going to get the other one.
No,
they've got no chance. The other grape is a grape that the Romans were thought to have brought over from Croatia. Okay, and it was called something like Gouloir Blanc, but it wasn't Gouloir because they're cigarettes.
Gouloir.
But it's something like that. I can't remember my name. Gush something. Anyway, they brought it over from Croatia. You don't see it anymore, but it used to be prolifically planted in Europe.
Yeah.
And it is the most widely planted white grape variety in the world.
Yeah, that's amazing. In actual fact, more than Chenin Blanc, more than Eren.
Yes, it has recently overtaken.
Wow.
Apparently.
Because Eren, spelled Airen, used to be the most prolifically grown grape variety, white grape variety in the world. And nobody's ever heard of it because it's used for blending. But that was recently taken over by Cabernet Sauvignon, which is now the most prolifically, extensively grown grape variety in the world. And Chardonnay, the white wine, that's fantastic. That is really music to my ears.
Chardonnay, as you said, you weren't convinced that people are going back on the train yet, but I think they are.
Okay.
Well, the producers certainly are.
Any more interesting bits and
Here we go.
pieces?
So obviously it varies in styles, and we'll talk about the winemaking like a bit further down the line, I think. But
have you got more trivia? I like trivia.
I mean, Chardonnay's not like littered with lots of interesting trivia. I've got a few facts and figures.
Okay, go for it. And then I'll put more in.
Bit of stats. Let me just find my stats. Actually, yes, it is.
Hello, Dan.
Chardonnay is a grape variety, but is also a little place.
It is.
Unfortunately, and very unconfusingly, it is a little village in Burgundy.
Yep.
So that's great. It's not like in Italy, where Montepulciano is a village which doesn't grow the Montepulciano grape.
We do have a photo somewhere of the Hannibal Brown, one of the fleet of Hannibal Brown vehicles parked in front of the Chardonnay village.
We do, don't we? Yeah. I couldn't find it in time. The sign.
Banner, which says Chardonnay, which is quite appealing.
Yeah,
so anybody wants to go and visit,
go
and visit. There's nobody there.
Take a photo. Take a photo by the sign. I love that Luke and Simon were going to think of, naming their firstborn Riesling. Especially because you're into Riesling.
Can I just follow on in actual fact? Because actually a little bit of history here. So for those, because I mean, just talking about Chablis now in actual fact. So Chablis, but all Chablis is produced out of Chardonnay, as we all know now. And if we didn't, we definitely know now. There is no other white grape variety in Burgundy other than Chardonnay. And Chablis is the northernmost part of is a region and a village, the northernmost part of Burgundy. And they've been making it for donkey's years, and it was huge in the 18th century, massive, largely because of its geographical positioning to Paris. Easy to float the wine up the river to Paris. And so Paris, well, by and large, the Chablis people had the monopoly on wines sold in Paris. And then, so that's why they jacked the prices up.
Right, okay.
Well, and then les Anglais got in on it, because that's what the English do. They got in on it and thought, ooh, we like this. And there were bucket loads being shipped over to the UK, Britain, back in the 1800s. And then, of course, what happened? Oh, yes. So here we go. Before I tell you what happened, there was something like 40,000 hectares of Chablis being produced in the 1800s. 40,000 hectares. Remember that number. And then that nasty little beastie bug called Phylloxera came along in the 1880s and wiped out Chablis, to the point that actually they did start replanting, but the replanting took a long time. And basically, Chablis went out of fashion, and up until the 1950s, so that's 1950s, it had gone from 40,000 hectares in vineyard production to 500.
Ooh!
So that is a massive drop.
So did they dig up the vines?
Well, Phylloxera ate them.
Okay, so the vines died.
Keep up, Jude.
They hadn't replanted.
Phylloxera ate them, everybody. Yeah. No, they didn't. Well, no, they did. They did plant some of them, but they couldn't afford to be honest. And an awful lot of winemakers just went, or viticulturists just said, you know what, I'm not doing this. It's too scary. Too scary. I don't want
just
beef back.
sell my donkey and live on the profits.
So then it has kind of like expanded again, and now obviously it's big again, but it's nothing like it was in the 1800s. Yeah.
In Europe, however, in the USA, it's the most widely planted grape variety.
Chardonnay, yes. So I was just talking about Chablis then.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's how Chablis got its name, though, because of its positioning, close proximity to Paris. And the Parisians went, "Ooh la la, that goes so well with my oysters."
There we go. Well, we know that anyone with direct links into the capital is at an advantage.
Yeah.
Hey, HS2 people.
Yeah. Okay, so that's my bit.
Let's move off that subject promptly. Interesting. Historically, it's like goes around, but Chablis is popular.
Should we show everybody where it is?
Okay, well, let's talk about Chablis for a bit.
Yeah.
Here we go.
We'll talk about Chablis for a moment, everybody.
I bought my mouse so that I didn't need to do this.
There we go.
So this is Burgundy.
That's France.
I still need to do this. Let me just do this and
that's my barrel. Okay.
Hang on, here we go. So this looks very basic, but it is a grey.
It's basic
block.
for our basic clients.
We know your audience, but that little white patch pretty much in the middle of France, but just slightly off to the east is Burgundy, and it's kind of split in two. The splattering to the north is the Chablis area, isn't it? Stop it. So it's kind of very central. I always in my mind think of it as a bit further south, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's actually quite far north, which is why it's kind of cool that.
Yeah, in fact, it's got closer affinity to Champagne really than it has to the sort of larger parts of Burgundy.
Oops.
Hello.
That's
Australia.
That's an untimely picture. Hang on, we might just have to just zip through these. There we go. So, and then this is those two white blobs broken down. So the green patch in the top left is Chablis. And then this is the rest of Burgundy. So just a very quick word on Burgundy, because it's a two-dayer in itself, isn't it? But you've got a couple of main areas. The Côte de Nuit, which is the top purple bit, and the and so the Côte de Nuit and Côte de Beaune make up the Côte d'Or, which is fancy pants.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's a reason why they call it gold.
Yeah. So I always think it's the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
Côte d'Or, but it's side.
It is the Gold Coast.
It's not coastal. So the Côte d'Or, that's seriously fancy pants. Then you go a bit further down, you've got the Maconnais section, the orange section there. That is, you get some better value kind of Chardonnays specifically from that sort of area, don't you?
Yeah, your Macon Village.
Macon Village, but also Puy-Fuissé is down there.
Yeah.
And then below that is something else, I think. I can't remember. It's not on the map. But anyway, so those are the main bits. The Côte d'Or, fancy pants, golden. Maconnais, get some good value, but still a bit of, fancy pants with your Puy-Fuissé, etc. And then Chablis is a different rule unto itself, isn't it? So let's just get this map off for a minute. Okay. There we go. So I was just going to have a quick word on the old Grand Cru thing.
Okay, go for it.
Burgundy, like every region in France, has got its own rules and regulations and some reasons for making it a little bit confusing. And those who know about it can sound very, very knowledgeable. And those who don't just feel stupid. So you just need to know a few basics, right? So those are the main things. The Côte d'Or, fancy pants, Maconnais, good value Chardonnay, Chablis, rule unto itself. And then you get your sort of regional areas in terms of classifications. You get your villages, which the wines are named after. So, for example, Puy-Fuissé is a village. It's not a cheap wines from Puy-Fuissé, but it's not necessarily Premier Cru or Grand Cru, which are actually specifically talking about the vineyards that they're grown in, right? Yeah. So your Premier Cru is next up, and then the Grand Cru is mortgage the house and then buy a cellar and then put it in the cellar.
We're talking about the Chablis region here now. So the Chablis region is divided into four.
Oh, it's talking about Burgundy as a whole, but okay.
Okay, we'll just stick to Chablis. So the Chablis is sort of divided into four appellations. Very simply put, you've got your Petit Chablis, which was a recent introduction. Then you've got your Chablis, which is the wine which is grown in the vicinity of the village itself. Then you've got your Premier Cru Chablis, which is designated regions and slightly higher elevation. And then you've got Grand Cru, which is the ultimate. Now, what are the differences? Well, the differences are obviously quality, soil, aspect, price, and that's pretty much. But if you kind of like basically take it very, very simple terms, Premier Cru and Grand Cru tend to be hotter, higher, possibly more alcoholic styles, so they pick them earlier, riper, more expressive, and oak, with a little bit of oak orientation. The village Chablis, which is what we're drinking here, a Chablis from Domaine de Melun, just called Appellation Chablis. That's from the region just outside the village itself of Chablis. This is slightly cool, slightly less elevation, and all about the soil. And the soil, we have to talk about the soil. Because it's this stuff.
Yeah, we have a piece.
Stuff. Yeah, and Petit Chablis is the same. It's very similar, but possibly sort of higher volume, maybe not quite as good a quality. But it's all about, Chablis is all about the chalk, the limestone, and the Kimmeridgian soil deposits, which are kind of like fossilized chalk, fossilized marl, that sort of stuff.
So let's wave this here a bit closer. So we literally picked this up when we were there, and I'm sure you're not allowed to do that, but it just is quite a useful prop. Because this is it's like
been put to good use. It has been put to good use.
It's rocks like this across the vineyards, and the vines have to seriously work their way to get through this and down to something which is helpful for survival.
Yeah, but if you ask anybody, any Chablisien, anybody from the Chablis area, any of the producers, they will all talk to you about the terroir and this stuff, which is so deep, so deep. And as Jude says, the roots of the soil of the vines have to work incredibly hard to work through into this, but actually they work harder. They actually gain more nutrients as a result of going deeper. And it's what gives it its steely minerality.
Minerality, that's the word.
What Chablis is all about. Somebody said, in actual fact, it was the lady who started up Domaine de Melun, and I can't remember the year, maybe it was in 1960 or 1980, I think it was 1980. And apparently her father said, if you really want to understand what minerality is, pick up a bit of this and lick it. And she did. And she understood instantly what minerality was. Now, I would lick it.
Well, I was just going to say,
I would lick it, except the dog's been licking it, which is kind of interesting because we pulled it in and the dog was intrigued by this. And you think, oh, okay. So he sort of recognized this sort of minerality, whether he likes it or not, I don't know. But
I'm not sure if it was from a wine connoisseur perspective, but let's go with the kind of thinking that it was, because he's a smart chap, really, underneath the facade. But so big, hard, chalky, solid white rock.
And this is what Chablis reflects. Chablis is not about oak, really. I mean, there is a little bit of oak use, but this particular one that we're tasting this evening hasn't seen a barrel anywhere. It hasn't been near oak. It was fermented in stainless steel. It was left on its lees for a long, long time. In fact, it sat in the tank for 12 months before it was released, and this is 2019, so it hasn't been released for very long. But the very art of just like letting it sit on its lees, which is all the sort of residual yeast and stuff, bits and pieces,
things you would
just gives it this sort of slightly bigger, slightly more weight, but it's still really kind of like, it's all about finesse.
Yeah, I mean, this style of wine is
vivacity.
Vivacity. What's that in French?
Vivacity.
Of course it is. She tells me she's fluent, but I think she's making it up.
It is. So
energy. This style of wine is your seafood end of the scale.
Yeah.
If you were to step this Chablis up to a Premier Cru or a Grand Cru, which had been aged in oak, or even a Chablis level that had been aged in oak from a different producer, then you go down your kind of mushroomy, earthy flavoured route. But when it's unoaked, actually really good with more zippy, clean, fresh flavors.
Yeah, and probably one of those reasons why so many people say they don't like Chardonnay, but they do like Chablis, because they recognize in Chablis this fact that actually these wines aren't, by and large, they're not oaked. It's not about the oak, it's about the grape variety.
Yeah.
And that's the sad thing. I don't like Chardonnay, when in actual fact, this typifies Chardonnay.
Yeah, and there's absolutely nothing else like it. It's some of the nicest, best wines in the world, right?
Exactly.
So I'm just having another giggle at a comment Alice has made, which is she mentioned that she never actually told us Charlotte's full name, Charlotte being my little niece. And although apparently, she told us it was Mary Florence, really, potentially could have been Merlot Freshnet.
Merlot Pinot Noir.
Worrying, but I know that's not true because you just wouldn't do that. So there's a Chablis thing. Let me just see. I've got a little Domaine de Malon picture.
I was just going to say also, the other thing is that, there we go.
This is did you find my... No, I didn't. So that's the town of Chablis at the bottom there. And those colourful vineyards, that is the Grand Cru. That is the Grand Cru vineyards.
Yeah.
So any Grand Cru Chablis, the vines are in those little plots, which is like the southwest facing, so really lovely and warm, grow beautifully in actual fact. And this is a tiny area because the village is really quite dinky, isn't it?
So, it's tiny. It's tiny.
So this is the production is not much for these Grand
My
Crus.
memory of Chablis is actually they have the tiniest wine glasses as well. If you go in and buy a glass of Chablis in a bar in Chablis, they give you like 5 centilitres.
Yes, that was the rest. Mind you, they do that in Alsace, but they just charge you less, I think.
There we go. That's a kind of good example, actually. That's a good picture, and it shows actually sort of elevation. I mean, these big sweeping hills, and they actually do go quite high. And this is why they just get this wonderful sort of exposure to the sun. Bear in mind, though, Chablis is very northern, and it can get incredibly cold there. And there are many occasions where the Chablis region suffer from frost. And I was just reading actually between 1950 and 1960, 10 years between 1950 and 1960, they only managed to produce 3 vintages because the rest were wiped out by snow and frost and this, that, and the other. That's bad, isn't it?
That's bad really for business.
So it makes you wonder. There's no surprise that there's so many viticulturalists or winemakers that just go, oh my god, this is just for nutters. Who wants to do farming? No way.
It's true, but it's a rarity, isn't it? Really, I mean, they do get some shockers, but not total wipeouts.
So anything else about Chablis? Loads about Chablis. Oh yeah, the other thing. So historically, remember that these are really quality wines that from a very very established region in France, one of the oldest wine producing areas in France, and historically Chablis was produced, and ideally it should be aged. It should really be aged for 5 to 6 years. But, it is the situation. The case is that, the winemakers, they want to get the money in the pockets. So they tend to be, they are released very early and arguably maybe a little bit too young. So nice and racy, lots of energy and vivacity. But 5-6 years from now, going to be totally different and still just as delicious, but different.
And also interesting on the script cap. You don't see that very often from the French. They're quite traditionalist. But no, this is the wine that is drinking really nicely now. But if you're able to hold on to it for a couple of years, we can't. You have to buy it and hold on to it. Then you'll just notice it get better and better.
Domaine de Malon, they are quite technophobes, I should say, in actual fact. And they do an awful lot of hand picking. But they do embrace the sort of technology of today.
Well, they do. So they're not technophobic.
So
no, the opposite.
Sorry, did I say
techno huggers?
I didn't mean that. Yeah. So they do screw gum, and also they sell. In fact, most Chablis, unsurprisingly, although it's quite interesting, is sold to countries where fish is paramount on the menus. So Canada, Japan, Northern Europe. I'm trying to think, probably, Scandinavia, all that sort of thing. They love Chablis because it goes so well with their fish.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Right.
So before we move on to Australia, I've got a music question, which I know everyone will be dying for.
Yeah.
So I was trying to look for some good songs with Chardonnay and Chablis in them. But it's quite difficult actually to find. I mean, there's all sorts of weirdy things that people put on YouTube, but you've got to have half a chance. So here you go. Here's question number one. There's a couple of songs, good, solid, like American country and Western songs, where Chablis 59 is mentioned.
Oh yeah, a great vintage
in Chablis.
Yeah,
and one of the few in that decade. One of the few in that decade that Pam has talked about. So here we go. There's a song called "The Cowboy and the Lady," where Chablis 59 is mentioned. Who sang it? Okay, that's one song. And then there's another.
No Googling.
Oh, I didn't write down the other one because she changed it. There's a Dolly Parton song where you can read in the lyrics that she mentioned Chablis 59. But when I was trying to find it on YouTube, for some sort of copywriting laws, she changed it to a fine imported wine instead of Chablis 59, which still rhymes, but it's not what we were looking for.
That's strange, isn't it?
That is strange. So there you go. Oh, and here's one as well. There was a really, really awful Christmas song called White December, where Your Kisses and Chablis were mentioned, and it was released in 2015. Who sang it? Pop Queen.
Your Kisses in Chablis.
Your Kisses and Chablis. It was mentioned in a line. She was a pop queen.
Wow, that's testing you.
There we go. So think about that whilst we move on to Philip Shaw and his wonderful.
Well, we should remember actually, there's an awful lot of people already opened it.
Well,
so
it'd
be
true.
interesting
Yeah.
actually if you've got any points that you want to make actually about the comparisons, because we've just been talking about Chablis, and so those of you who've been drinking the Philip Shaw Architect will see a completely different stylistically produced Chardonnay. And why is that, Jude?
Because it's from Australia.
Because it's from Australia, and it's made by Philip Shaw, one of the top 10 winemakers, if not one of the best winemakers in Australia, and a jolly nice chap he is too. He's quite elderly these days, so he's let his yes, I'll use that.
We'll go back to that one. Yeah.
So he's based in New South Wales.
Yeah, I'm going to give you an Australian map here actually, because they haven't got it yet. So where it is in New South Wales is. It's just sort of behind the Blue Mountains. So if you imagine Sydney and you go west, almost exactly horizontally west, it's kind of in there. It's a place called Orange. So I'm going to zoom in on the map for those of you who are on the screen. And yeah, you're looking at about 150 kilometers due west of Sydney, kind of over the other side of the Blue Mountains. And there's a little place called Orange. And that is where this wine is produced.
And why did he grow his vines there?
So Philip Shaw was the first producer to plant there. There's now about 60 producers there. And this is back in the late 80s. And a couple of years before he did this, he was working for...
Rosemount.
Estate.
Can you believe it? One of those dirty, horrible big brands. That was Philip Shaw.
I know, but
it takes a serious winemaker to be able to do that job, though. But Rosemount in the day. Rosemount in the day. It was a good brand.
Yeah, and I actually don't know now if they do have a really good premium option. Maybe not in this country.
I haven't seen it for years.
No, I just remember when I was a teenager serving it in the Beefeater. Anyway, Philip Shaw was their winemaker, and a couple of years before he set up in Orange, he won the Winemaker of the Year award in the London International Wine and Spirits competition. This is a big accolade.
It's huge.
That is an amazing thing to win.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then actually he won it again in 2000. He is brilliant. But back in 1988, he was traveling around Australia trying to find the perfect spots to plant his vineyards. Yeah. And he flew over Orange and he saw these sort of different slopes, and he knew there was a slightly higher altitude. And he thought, this is it. This is the one, because there's lots of different sloping hills. But the key is Australia is such a bloody hot country, and this is in the vineyard he founded, which are called the Kumulu vineyards. They're at 900 meters elevation, so totally different to kind of coastal New South Wales.
Which is why, in actual fact, if we weren't tasting this up against the Chablis, if you look at this wine in isolation, often it can be assumed that this is more European in style, Chardonnay, compared to your big bruiser Chardonnays that you often get from Australia.
Yeah.
And it is largely to do with the climate, which is which is cooler, much cooler at 900 meters, and just so that provides a sort of like a refinement. And he picks his grapes at night, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Does
yeah,
everything
so it's nice
at
and
night.
cool.
Keeps his yields down.
Really cares for small production and big flavors. And this vintage that you're drinking, we're sadly not. We can remember it. The 2018, they struggled. They had really very little rain that year. What it resulted in was having very small berries or grapes on their vines. But actually, small grapes, bigger flavors, just less of it. So for the consumer, great. This is going to be fantastic. For the producer, not going to be able to produce as much. But still they get the quality.
Yeah. So. But the biggest difference between the two wines is the fact that the Philip Shaw Architect is fermented in...
It has oak,
in a barrel.
In barrels, in oak barrels. It is oak. It's oak Chardonnay, but it's not in your face Australian, put you right off for life.
No.
Styling,
and that's why I was just going to... Can we get my barrel up with that tool on the top? I'm just going to show you something. Here's a picture.
It's not there yet. Hang on. Hold your horses.
Okay.
It's more complicated than this. You think it's sorry, that's a man.
Here it comes.
Let's just stop sharing. You just Phil.
There we go. So here comes a picture of a barrel, but it's not the barrel that we're looking at. It's the chain that's sitting on top of it. Come on,
keep talking. Just keep talking about the chain, and I'll get the barrel. Okay?
So there's a little piece of there's a tool, a piece of equipment in a winery, and it's called a batonnage. And it's for the purposes of batonnage, which is basically taking a metal rod or a chain and dipping it in the top of the barrel into the wine and dragging this chain along the base of the barrel, and basically churning up all the yeast and all the lees of the wine, and essentially just like scraping the barrel, the bottom of the barrel, and encouraging more and more of these sort of like natural oak characteristics to infuse into the wine.
It's like stirring your tea in the teapot.
Now that you can now see it. It's this rod with a chain on the end of it. Now I've done this, and you can basically be as heavy-handed as you like, and it is down to the individual winemaker. But the winemaker doesn't tend to do it. He normally finds some sort of, urchin like myself to do it. And he has no control over how sort of, rigorous I'm going to be, or how sort of softly I'm going to do this. But that this batonnage has a massive impact on the ultimate characteristics of the wine. And you could argue that actually this is where Australian Chardonnays can become over oaked, because they work that oak so hard. And a lot of it is to do with over batonnage. Which is
and also whether it's new oak, isn't it? I mean, these are
and also whether it's new oak as well.
So the Luke was just asking. So it's 65% of the wine is aged in older French oak. So not the first time it's been used. So you're not going to have that overpowering vanillainess that sometimes you get.
Exactly. You tend to maybe use 20-30% of new oak, and then second year oak, and then third year oak, and just create a blend of all three, but sort of trying to manage the amount of oak that's in there. And I think the nice thing about the Philip Shaw Architect is that you don't really, and one of the reasons why we love it, and what we always try to find in our Chardonnays, is we're not looking for oak characteristics. We're looking for this buttery characteristics.
Buttery, rich, lovely, delicious.
Buttery, rich. And it's very, very difficult to come across, which is why Philip Shaw is so excellent in what he does, is that he doesn't over-egg that oak. It's just this like nurtured sort of butteriness, which is just delicious and very, very difficult wine in terms of winemaking expertise to find. I've often asked, I've asked around, our suppliers and what have you, and said, can you tell me where to find some buttery Chardonnay, and often they just scratch their head and go, don't know.
Tricky.
It's very, very difficult to come by. So it's this sort of this line between heavily aged Chardonnay and sort of stainless steel sort of Chablis, something in between.
Which he's hit the nail on the head. I just have to put them out of the misery on the old music question.
Oh yeah.
So my question about the cowboy and the lady, John Denver. I don't think anyone mentioned John Denver. Hank Williams, Brotherhood of Man, interesting option. Dolly, but I kind of threw that one out of the water. Sorry, Claire. John Denver, and the blooming poppy nightmare Christmas song was Kylie.
Oh,
Look it up. White December. I never heard of it before, but it's just awful.
that sounds terrible.
And here's another. I've got a couple more. So these people like
go for it.
Okay, this is a bit more, down the heavy route. You guys lick your Chablis rock whilst I ask the music question. Okay, opening line of a song, bit more seriously kind of heavy, rocky. I think there's some serious guitar action going here. I don't drink tea or white Chablis. Who sang it?
Oh yeah.
Or who shouted it?
Yeah.
And then this one, there's someone here who, if she's still here, will definitely get. There is a song, and I think pretty much only one song, certainly in the last 20 years, that was called Chardonnay, and it was released in 2003, and it's brilliant. And who knows who sang it? I'm going to put it out there, and there's one person who I think will get it.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why once they do. And if they don't, then maybe they've left.
Okay.
Or they'll be, kicking themselves.
Okay. Can I just go back another
of course, something more wine related.
Another shout out for Philip Shaw. So Philip Shaw, he is a very gifted winemaker. We also do his Viognier, which is called the Dreamer. We have the Idiot, which is a Shiraz, and what's the other one? The Wire
Walker Pinot Noir.
The Wire Walker Pinot Noir that we have in from time to time. But just going back to the architect, it's kind of interesting that he used to submit his wine into the big Burgundian competitions.
Oh yeah.
The big Burgundian wine competitions, and he pitched his Chardonnay from Orange in New South Wales, his architect from Orange in New South Wales, up against some of the top Grand Cru Chablis and the Meursaults and the Puligny-Montrachets and various different top wines from Burgundy. And time again, his wines. Bear in mind that these competitions are blind. They're blind tasted against by big gurus of the wine world.
That's their official
over and over again, his wine was beating the Burgundian Chardonnays, and so much to the point that actually he stopped doing it because he was getting so frustrated, because this is a £16.99 bottle of Chardonnay from New South Wales, and it was beating Burgundian whites of around about €100 a bottle. And so he doesn't do it anymore, and I don't blame him. But it just goes to show that in actual fact, you're getting really good value for money. It's not Burgundy, but it is like finesse and elegance in a bottle. I love it.
Yeah,
I absolutely love this wine.
It goes to show there is that designer label element with your Burgundian wines and your Chablis.
Yeah.
But they can be absolutely phenomenally good as well. So.
And what do we drink it with?
Well, Philip Shaw,
yeah,
mushrooms on toast
with truffle oil
and parmesan grated on top. Earthy, rich, big flavors. A Chardonnay with a little bit of oak goes so well with that roasted
pasta with tartuffe and
anything truffly and mushroomy, and also kind of cheesy. But actually, the cheeses work quite well with the non-oak styles.
Yeah,
but like roasted chicken and that sort of thing. Yeah. Brilliant accompaniments.
Okay, so $16.99 for the architect, $21.50 I think for the Chablis. As I said, don't compare and contrast in terms of price, because they are from different corners of the world,
different planets.
It is what it is. Chablis you will always pay a premium for, and I think, I don't know, what else can we say?
Oh well, I really love them both. Yeah. It's which do you prefer? It's a really difficult call, and I think for me it depends what you're eating.
Time and a place,
or if you're eating.
And on that, what we're doing next week?
Well, here we go. Next week is the El Maestro d'Argentina.
Oh yes,
Maestro d'Argentina.
Yeah. Now we're going a bit crazy next week. We're doing something phenomenal, and it is a little bit pricey. So it's just one wine. It is a Malbec blend from Familia Agostino in Mendoza in Argentina. So good. And we don't often talk about Argentina, so that's kind of
we don't. This is a wine you need to decant 3 hours in advance.
Yeah.
Open it up, give it some credit.
Yeah.
get a bit of steak or beef carpaccio. You know, it needs do it some justice because it's absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
But it needs its time to open up, because this is also wine that you could lie down for another 6 years.
Yeah.
Or open up a few hours in advance, and that almost does the job of the 6 years.
Yeah.
Then the following week is
Volcanic Revisited.
Part deux.
Yeah.
But actually, we're going back to some really good, affordable Sicilian wines.
We
a
are.
red and a white.
Yeah.
Both very natural. White is quite unusual, but it's good, and they're both under a tenner, so worth the punt.
And then very fittingly, we are going to venture into the new vintages of rosé just the day before Good Friday. So, and then that's going to be a wrap. Well, who knows? We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
We will probably be asking you guys whether you want to continue every now and again, and then we'll figure that out. But I just have to put everyone out of their misery.
Oh yeah.
From the music question. Oh, come on, Claire Clark, where have you gone? Maybe she's not here anymore. I'm very disappointed. Keris Matthews, yes, Keris Matthews of Catatonia,
well done.
And Radio 6 Music, sang Chardonnay, and it's actually a really nice song. You should look it up. It's great.
Okay.
Well done, Luke, for Keris someone, and well done, Alice. Well done, Alice, for filling in the blank.
Keris something.
I'll give you half a point each. Claire Clark, how did you not get Keris Matthews' Chardonnay? She's a Welshie.
Didn't we say orange? How big oranges? By compared to Wales, we didn't. We
we should have done in.
It's probably half the size of Wales.
Probably is.
Yeah.
Probably is.
Okay, is that it?
So I think that's a wrap for this evening.
I think so. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed the wines, everybody. If you want to know about anything about, if you want to talk to us about Chardonnay particularly, or discover some more Chardonnays, then give us a shout anytime.
I am going to put up over the next couple of days a really, really delicious beefy canapé to have with the Malbec. Okay, so I was a bit remiss with the Chardonnays. We've been a bit busy. Sorry about that. But I'm going to keep an eye out and do give it a go. We all need to get back on our canapé cooking for the last couple of weeks. Okay.
Asada. Maybe we can do a barbecue.
I think.
Wouldn't that be nice to be able to do a barbecue for the Malbec blend for next week? Anyway,
we'll see.
Hope you enjoyed it, everybody. Okay, remember, go onto our website, hannibalbrown.com. And share amongst your friends.
Yeah. Thanks for joining. See you next week.
Everyone.
Cheers.
Bye for now. Bye.